6:30.
Okay. And these captions are auto-generated for anyone watching the recording.
It's a new feature.
Nice.
Tim Galinsky,
Here.
Sharon Novak,
Here.
Mozella Brown,
Here.
Lillian Ball, Bonnie Cuthbert,
Here.
Judith Cook, and Jerry Villa. Ooh,
Don't lean on it hard.
uh-oh.
All right, we're going to recognize our visitors today. We have Village Administrator Dan Pogorski today. He's going to discuss the commercial tax support resolution. So, Mr. Leonardo, stand by. We'll be with you shortly.
You're second, Dan.
You guys like me to stay right here?
That's fine.
That's what you're comfortable with.
Very
They
good.
should be able to hear you. You
Okay,
have a
excellent.
good voice.
So I want to thank your library director, Debbie Albrecht, for inviting me here this evening. What I came here to talk about, and I guess answer any questions, is it's a proposed resolution that the Village of Lansing has been considering. And we've had some discussions with all the other taxing bodies in the village. The thought is if everybody or anybody who would like to join in the resolution, that we would craft one joint resolution, which would then be submitted to the assessor's office to kind of voice our displeasure with how some of the property tax assessments came down this past year. So just to back up a little bit, the south suburbs were part of this was the year that the South Triennial area was reassessed by Assessor Katie's office. And there's, not any sort of a secret that the assessor's office has kind of a stated goal of shifting some of the tax burden from residential property owners to commercial and industrial, which of course sounds great if you're a residential property owner. From a taxing body standpoint, from the village's standpoint, and from the schools, possibly the library, our concern is if too much of the shift on the assessed value is given to commercial and industrial property owners, are they going to be able to continue? Are they going to be able to stay in business? Are they going to be able to continue making their property tax payments? Or do some of them consider just getting up and walking away from their properties, which of course creates a problem for those of us that are in government. Probably, well, again, back up a little bit more. Some of the assessments that came out late last year for commercial and industrial property owners contained, really large proposed assessment increases, 50%, 100%, 200%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, so some of these, some of these property owners are being faced with, 100, 200% increases in their assessed value, which could translate into that type of an increase in their property taxes. Now, the property tax, formula in the county is also somewhat convoluted. There's a state equalizer that gets brought into play. Residential property owners are taxed at 10% of their assessed value. Commercial and industrial owners are taxed at 25% of their assessed value. So there's a lot of different moving parts to this, but it's safe to assume that if your equalized assessed value goes up, your property taxes are going to go up. And I think everybody can come to terms with a 3%, a 4%, a 5% increase in taxes, something that matches cost of living. But if you're a commercial or industrial property owner and you're getting hit with 25, 50, 100, 200% increases, it's not sustainable. It's not something you can continue to just carry that burden every year. And again, as taxing bodies, our concern is if property owners get up and just simply walk away from their buildings and they don't pay those taxes, well, the village board, the schools, the library, the parks, we all still need the same amount of money to run our governments. And if you have a smaller tax base because you have people walking away from their buildings, then that same burden is now shared by a smaller group of people, smaller group of owners. And so therefore, everybody else then begins to share a little bit more in the burden. And if that cycle continues to happen, what's ultimately going to happen is that the very objective of the assessor's office, that more of the burden gets shared by commercial and industrial, just the opposite's going to happen, because the people who continue to live here, they're going to wind up sharing more of the burden. They're going to get more of the burden because there's not going to be anybody left. That's a very exaggerated example, but that's the path that it could take. So without getting too long-winded, I had, as the administrator of the village government, I had some trustees approach me back in late fall and said, hey, what can we do about this? What can the village do to support commercial and industrial property owners? Well, this is obviously, it's the function of the assessor's office. So there's not a lot that we can do. There's really nothing we can do from an official, we don't have the ability to inject ourselves into the assessor's office and make decisions for them. But what we can do is raise awareness and possibly, kind of be that voice that is maybe heard by the assessor, maybe spread the news, maybe get some other governments, some other municipalities to join. And if enough of us are waving our hands and stomping our feet, maybe we get the assessor's office to reconsider their methodology. So after we made a brief statement to those effects in December, and then I had been contacted by School District 158, Bob Wood and Dr. Schilling, who said, hey, village, I think the school district would maybe like to join that effort, because they were getting the same concerns voiced to them by people in the community. So that's kind of what started this effort of, hey, maybe as a village, not just the village government, not just School District 158, but maybe everybody wants to get involved in this. And so we asked our attorneys to craft a kind of a draft resolution, which ultimately can be adopted by whatever boards are interested in supporting it. This is not any kind of a strong arm tactic to come here and say you must do this. It's just the opposite. This is something the village board is going to adopt. It looks like School District 158 is going to. At our intergovernmental quarterly meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, this was discussed by all the boards, including Debbie was on the call for the library. So the thought is, hey, if all the taxing bodies in Lansing want to get on board with this, then all of our names will go on this. It'll get signed, adopted. We'll forward it to the assessor's office. What we may be able to do is get South Suburban mayors and managers involved. And I think there's some other municipalities that are starting to hear that, hey, Lansing is kicking up a little bit of dust, and maybe we get some other municipalities to join on board. And if you're the assessor and you got one municipality kicking and screaming, well, okay, Lansing, thanks a lot. We'll take that under advisement. But if you get 8, 10, 15 municipalities, or maybe if we can convince South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association to act on behalf of all of us, now you start making some waves that maybe the assessor's office has to pay attention to. So that's in a very top level view. That's the reason for this resolution. That's how it came about, and that's how we started expanding the scope to involve more than just the village board. So the resolution itself is, it's very top level. It talks about, and you don't want me to read it.
Our lawyer said it was fine.
Yeah, it's, a resolution by itself is it's largely it's a ceremonial type of you're voicing your displeasure or your support for something. It doesn't contain any sort of legislative action. It's not really, it's just basically
It's
a
not
formal.
binding, it's
Yeah.
just expressing your opinion in an official way, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a formal way of saying, hey, we support this or we don't support this, and here's the reasons why. Our attorneys took a stab at this. We're happy to encompass other suggestions for it. I think the superintendent of School District 215 had a suggestion. When we talked about there's a whereas in here that talks about the quality of life, and she wanted us to add something about quality of mental health, I think, for residents. So we're going to certainly incorporate any other suggestions that any of the boards have. And I think from a timing standpoint, you have a certain amount of time that something kind of gets hot, and you got to sort of act on it. After that, it becomes old news, and if you have the attention of the assessor, there's a certain time frame you got to strike. So we're sort of thinking that if we can get something done in the month of March with all of our boards, or maybe by the end of March, our boards have decided who's going to sign in on this, then it's something that we can then forward to the assessor's office. The business owners are also taking note. Sometimes they just want to know that someone's sticking up for them.
Sure.
And it's not a guarantee that any of them are going to be able to sustain these types of increases, but as elected officials, we got to be there for not just the residents, but the business owners as well. They're the ones that are paying a lot of the freight.
They're part of the community and they.
Right. So, I know there was maybe about a half dozen business owners that were at our last meeting, and and I just think they appreciate the fact that we're sort of stepping up and going to bat for them. So absolutely no pressure on this board to adopt this. If you think being a part of this makes sense and you want to stand shoulder to shoulder, I think it would show a lot of support. I think it would really be a cool thing to show some unity amongst all of our Lansing boards. I know the village board is going to do this. I know School District 158 is going to. I really haven't checked in with anybody else yet.
But everybody on the call at least sounded positive. Now, everybody thought it sounded like a good idea. The
Yeah.
only people who weren't on that call was the Park District.
Right.
But all the other school districts, and they were all like, this sounds
171
good, and
was
they
in
were
on
gonna
this
bring
too?
it.
Yes.
They heard about it, we're gonna bring it to their
Yeah.
board too.
So, so if you haven't read it, it basically states that, the assessor has proposed assessments that are higher than reasonable amounts, talks about how we depend on the remittance of property taxes to fund government, talks about how if people walk away from their properties, there will be a smaller base, and everybody depends on our businesses not only to provide goods and services, but to pay their tax bills, and as taxing bodies, we depend. The library depends on
Absolutely.
the property tax levy. The village does. I mean,
Absolutely.
if our levy is compromised by 10 or 15 or 20%, I mean,
That's huge.
those are hard cuts you'd have to consider making.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to read through it if you'd like me to. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I love the fact that you're even taking it up on your agenda. And I'll turn it
It's
over to
important.
questions or that.
It's important, and I think Lansing especially, and Calumet City, the towns that are on the border, I mean, they're so screwed anyway, because we're so close to Indiana, that this just makes it even tougher.
Yeah.
And we're so close here, it seems, to getting business in here with Fox Point, and things are like when this COVID thing goes up, stuff's gonna happen here, and this could just kill it all.
Yeah.
Kill it.
Yeah, it's hard enough for border communities like Lansing to
Yes.
survive. We're always facing, if you're in the middle of Cook County, if you're a municipality in the middle of
It's
Cook
kind
County,
of different.
Yeah, you know, it's not that easy for a business to relocate, but if you're a business and you're choosing between Lansing or, hey, I'll just go a couple
A mile
blocks
down the
east,
road.
Down the road.
you know, then it's,
It's a no-brainer.
yeah, so it's tough already, and there's incentives in place, tax increment financing, the county does offer a property tax incentive, and we utilize those tools to kind of level the playing field. You're not really giving away the store, but you're making it somewhat competitive, and you're giving those businesses a reason to, hey, with these incentives, I can make it work in Lansing or in Calumet City or in any border town. So, add a 100 or 200% property assessment increase to your list
you
of things,
imagine?
and it's going to be tough.
Why was the increase so huge? Is it the formula that they refigured or? I mean, because they periodically reassess them, right?
Every 3 years.
So I
we
mean,
go
in
through
3 years' time, they deem that the property has just gone that far.
Shifting the.
Are they kidding?
You've got a new assessor, Fritz Kagi is newly elected as the assessor, and his stated intentions were to try to get the assessments to approximate what the fair market value is. But is also a stated goal, though, is to shift that tax burden from residential to commercial and industrial. And
Which is nice, but it ultimately trickles down to us
Right, like Dan
anyway. I
said,
mean,
it
it's
could
not-
totally backfire.
Yeah. Wow.
So I just thought he can explain all the
Right.
intricacies much better than I
Very
will.
well.
Well,
And I
that's just-
wanted you
that's
to
just
hear it.
detrimental to mom and pop type places.
Oh,
you
my
know.
goodness, yes,
It's, they ain't got the deep pockets to sustain that.
right, right,
yeah, think of well, I mean, you go up and down Bridge Road.
Right.
Think of who owns, not necessarily, well, I mean, it'll affect the people that rent, even if they don't own, because if you're a renter, well, what's your landlord's gonna
rent's
do?
gonna go on.
They're gonna pass that on.
Exactly.
It's all
Right.
trickle down.
exactly.
So it just gets to the point where it's unsustainable. Maybe you can scrimp and claw, maybe you got some savings and you can make it happen for a year, maybe 2 years, but it's just not something that really is sustainable, and that's the concern.
So what do you guys think?
I think it's a good idea.
it's a great
What do we need to do? Are you guys gonna provide us with some or is this it right here? We just have one that,
Yeah, that's a draft,
Fill in the blanks.
and if you're comfortable with this draft, you could adopt it, and your attorney will probably, you can do it here at this meeting or the next meeting, and your attorney might add
He said the next-
language to what's that?
He said we should talk about it here and vote on it in March.
Yeah,
And he said, he didn't have any problem with the language and stuff, I sent it to him. He just said, don't be the only one supporting it, that's what he said.
well, the village board is absolutely
And I told him,
going to.
the village, and he goes, what about the school boards? And I said, well, I know one of them for sure, and the other ones I believe are going to too. And he goes, well, then it makes perfect sense for you to be united.
Yeah.
And and if we do this and people notice, it might spark something. And it might spread, and maybe we can do something.
Yeah,
But if
that's,
somebody doesn't try,
Right.
nothing's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and it's all gonna be bad.
yeah, that's the hope, is that if 4 or 5 of us taxing bodies, if we band together and we get something passed, and then it'll start making, it'll
Create some waves.
Yeah, it'll gain some legs.
Yeah,
And then maybe it gets to some other mayors and school boards and library boards, and they say, hey, how come our town's not doing something like
Right.
this?
If South
Possible.
Suburban mayors and managers does not pick it up, would we maybe on our own approach, I don't know, Linwood or
Yes.
Cal City or, okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
even if they don't collectively, possibly separately.
I know SSMMA, I know that they'll publicize it. If we do something like this, their executive director, obviously, most of us know, lives in Lansing. You're right, yeah, first time I heard that. So she will promote it, and she'll let it be known that, hey, this is something Lansing did, and she won't just say those lines, she'll say library board, school district 158, 215, 171. She'll frame it in a way that it'll get some people's attention, and then it becomes easy.
Yes,
Then if, you know, if you're blazing the trail, yeah, there's a little trepidation. Do I want to be the first one out of the gate? But then other municipalities, if they see somebody's done something, they'll say, hey, you know, send me a copy of that. I'd like to take a look at it. And then they might adopt their own. It becomes easier if somebody else is doing it.
I did send this, the Park District has this.
Oh, good.
I gave it to Karen and I sent it to Sharon
Okay.
and Bob.
Wonderful.
So they are aware, and I sort of quickly explained it to Karen Adams. She was here one day.
Perfect.
So I said, could you please bring this up? So
That's great.
they were the only ones not on the phone call. I mean, in the government.
So, yeah, and, you know, I would encourage you to discuss it, and, you know, I'll leave, so you know.
So you can talk about it.
Absolutely. Talk about me.
And could I ask that, if we decide, and it sounds like we will, if we put this on the agenda for the March 18th would be our next meeting.
Yeah.
That you give me the most up-to-date version
Most
for
updated
us
version.
to pass.
The one that we just need to sign
Right.
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, and your attorney might want to work in a provision into your own resolution, or the way you adopt it, that says you adopt this draft and any minor changes. They have ways of saying, if
Okay.
it changes slightly, you know,
You don't have to
you have
read.
the ability to sign it as long as it's in roughly that same form.
Okay,
And a lot of our ordinances or resolutions will say that it gives the mayor and the clerk the ability to execute a document in the form it's in, or if it contains slight immaterial changes. That way, if there's some back and forth, you still have the ability to, you don't have to bring it back to your board for a slight change.
An extra preposition.
Right.
Awesome.
Good idea, Dan.
thank you,
Okay.
Dan. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
Love
for
it.
being here.
Yep. Hey, thanks, guys. Nice to see you virtually. Hopefully we-
Virtual people, do you have questions? We didn't.
Any virtual questions?
No, I don't. I heard everything. Thanks, Dan.
Yep, you bet, Mazzella. Hey, hope to see everybody at Fox Point sometime.
You bet.
Keeping our fingers
First
crossed.
Wednesday in June. Woo-hoo.
Have a great night.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dan.
Thanks,
Good night.
Good night.
So, yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about it some more.
yeah.
Let's let Mr. Leonardo have his time and sun there.
Dan number two.
No, you're really Dan number one. It's okay.
Dan 2.0.
I was here first. So I'll just go over the status of the project currently, and really it's all good news. So we'll start with that. But from a schedule standpoint, we are still on schedule to be completed by the substantially complete by the contract date, the middle of March or March 19th. And we are working towards that every day. No issues as it relates to building permit. Municipal inspections have been ongoing, and we have no issue. There was one minor request of the fire department to add a Knox box, which is a key box that goes down next to the door for fire department emergency access. And we've asked the contractor to put together some costs for that, but it will be minor. That's an inexpensive device, and installing it is very simple. So that'll be a future cost that'll come to the board. But other than that, no issues with the inspections. They're ongoing. Debbie, you provided my reports to the board or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so the one I want to jump on real quick is the issues log. And you'll notice on the issues log, there's a few things highlighted in yellow. And those are items that are in some form of progress now, but likely will have a cost associated with them. Most of them do not even have a preliminary cost in them at this point, but we will get that. We will negotiate on your behalf and get the best deal that we can, and then bring those to you in future allowance authorizations. Nothing really, dramatic to look at. I mentioned the Knox box. There's some other lighting related changes, and largely these are changes that were required due to interference with other either mechanical systems or structure of the building as the ceilings were torn down and the new walls were going in. So nothing dramatic, and I think that we are moving along well. We've probably discovered 90% of these kind of so-called surprises, so I don't expect a substantial number of additional surprises, and therefore those kind of costs should be coming to an end. The next item or a report that we'll talk about for a minute is your allowance summary report. And that one, sorry. Are you still there?
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. The allowance summary report really just tracks the contingency allowance that was included in the project. And if you recall, that had an $80,000 value or budget to it when we started. And with the 2 allowance authorizations that have already been signed off on, we remain a $43,200.26 balance in that budget. And based on the progress, we are far more than halfway done, and we are less than halfway through our allowance. So I fully expect that allowance to meet the needs. It is important to note that that allowance is set up. It's your money, and you can certainly spend it any way you see fit. The intention of that allowance is to fund surprises like the things that I described earlier, things being in the way, things that were unforeseen. In this case, it's also being used to fund some kind of extra scope expansion of the project. So a fair amount of that almost $37,000 that has been spent is because we expanded the project and added things to it. There's a number of things like we added provisions for more wireless access downstairs. We're rekeying a large portion of the lower level that isn't within the area that we're renovating. You had kind of a disjointed keying system before with some years that tends to happen, and now you're going to have a more unified keying system. We're also redoing the carpet on the first floor, the flooring on the first floor just inside the entrance that has not held up, and as well as we would have hoped from the first floor renovation. So those things were funded out of that allowance summary, or excuse me, that contingency allowance, and even with those additional scope expansions, we're still in good shape. So from a budget standpoint, it's going along well. I fully expect the project to come in below budget. The next item on the status report is a payment application to Henry Brothers. I'm sure it's in your bills that you'll probably take action on here a little bit later tonight. Their payment application number 2 is for the amount of $221,424.53. That is charged against their contract, and at the completion of that payment, they will have been paid 35% of their total contract value. And just so you kind of understand, I believe they're probably closer to 60 to 65% done with the work. We are always a little ahead, meaning that the library always has received more than you've paid for in the way that the paying process works. So that's always good for us. Money motivates contractors to finish, so we always want to keep them wanting a little more. Generally, what's going on down there, if you happen to drive by the library, You know, all the walls are up. The vast majority of them are either painted or being painted now. Lots of colors, you know, lots of dramatic colors. The ceiling framework is going in, so it has an acoustical ceiling, which is the thin metal strips that the tiles sit in. All of that is up, and things like the light fixtures and HVAC ductwork device.
The light fixtures are so nice.
Yeah,
Oh, really nice.
It's going to be a dramatic change as far as, you know, what you're comparing it to, the old setup, because lighting has just come so far in the years since the original renovation was done down there. So that will be dramatic. It's very light, it's very bright, and all that work is ongoing. The only kind of item that is dragging behind is the installation of the new air handling unit, which was shipped from, I believe, in Mexico somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. But if you've watched the news, Texas is having a little weather activity, and our air handler is stuck on a truck with a truck driver who's afraid to drive because he doesn't want to crash. So
That's a good thing.
Yes.
right.
yes.
The only thing worse than him waiting is him being in some kind of accident and our unit being
There were a couple doozies on the news too.
I know.
so
First.
the expectation is that unit will now get here early next week, and they'll begin installation immediately. All the infrastructure for it, all the ductwork is run back to the room, and we're just kind of waiting for the heart to be installed. As soon as that gets here, that will get installed, and that will be a big piece, and that it's an important piece. There's a lot of electrical and control work that has to go in. The new system is controlled much differently than your old system. It's much more zoned and controllable, kind of tailorable system to the individual areas. So that should be a vast improvement over what was down there in the past.
Cool.
The only other thing I wanted to talk about briefly is we have a second allowance in the contract for audiovisual. And the allowance was a total of $30,000. And that was expected to be used for technology added to the building. The infrastructure, or the conduit and the stuff in the walls, is already part of the job. So this is for all the end devices, TVs, projectors, screens, sound systems, speakers, those kind of things. So Debbie, Kelly, along with the architect, met with not only the general contractor, but the audio contractor, and they have put together a proposal for all that equipment. And we're still refining that, but it's expected that proposal for that extra stuff is going to come in just a little bit under that budget. So I believe we're going to be on budget with that, very close. And you are going to ultimately end up with several rooms, the teen room, the meeting room, as well as some other areas that have kind of the latest and greatest technology, and really should work well for you and for your patrons. Possibly the largest TV I've ever seen installed is going to be in the room. It's something like 89 inches across, which is big.
Super Bowl here next year.
And
Yeah.
then the guy goes, "Do you want the 98 inch?" I'm like, "No." But no.
If we have any fans of The Bachelor, that's going to be the place to watch. But we will be bringing to you the authorization for that funding probably at your next meeting. But as I said, we're still fine tuning that. The architect is going through that to confirm his understanding and acceptance of those costs. But that's a big step, and I think it was intended as an allowance to allow some flexibility. We spent a good hour or so with the AV guy and Kelly and Debbie, and he did a really good job going through the different possibilities. And we talked about not only things that would work for the library, but some kind of pie in the sky things that, you know, he's a techie geek, so he definitely had more if we wanted it. And
He downscaled it.
you know, we made a decision what would work best for the library without getting ridiculous is really what it.
I think we did.
So that's,
We changed what we were gonna do. We were gonna have a projector.
yeah, yeah,
He
that,
just explained why that just didn't make sense. Right. And
Okay.
he was right. So it's gonna be very nice.
Good.
so generally that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And, you know, anything that you concerned about or along those lines.
Sounds like you guys are really chugging along. That's great.
Yeah, I have to take my hat off to Henry Brothers.
Honestly,
Are they doing a good job? But the project manager and superintendent who's on site is really conscientious and, in my opinion, looking out for the best interest of the library.
yeah, it's like, yes,
Wow.
he
Wow,
is.
Which
nice. That's
is,
unexpected.
He's like Dan.
That's great.
Sometimes those guys are so focused on the bottom line that they kind of lose sight of that. And in this case, I think he's got the library's best interest in heart. And frankly, I think it's a good job for Henry Brothers. They aren't, you know, expending funds for things that they don't have to because they're doing a good job managing it.
Yeah, like a couple times, you know, when I go downstairs with a bunch of staff people, like we wanted to make sure we had all the plugs and stuff we want. He walked with us.
Wow.
He would say, do you really want to do that? Or maybe you want to do, I mean, he's really been helpful.
Hands on.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That's
Yes.
what you want.
So, and he keeps the place immaculate.
Yeah. You saw that last month. That was fabulous.
When he has to bring in that his illegal labor.
Yeah.
He has two
His kids.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, they've been good to work with.
That's great.
All right, Dan, thank you very much, sir. And we'll be looking to hear from you at the next meeting or whatever the update was.
okay.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Dan.
Good night, everyone.
He has another meeting at 7:30, so that worked out perfect.
Okay. It's got a little time in between.
Real nice. All right.
You know, it's so great because Dan and Darren and I have worked together for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we're just, I mean, we understand each other, you know, it's just.
it's really
such
good
a
having him
pleasure.
to help with those projects, you
Oh,
know.
my goodness. It's just a pleasure to do it.
That's more than you can ask anyone to try to
Right.
handle.
Mhm.
I remember when the first project, when his father was involved
Yes,
with
when
it too.
Norm was
And I
there.
was like, what do we need them for? You know, but you really do need them.
You do, because you don't understand it all.
Unless you're a contracting engineer yourself, you're not gonna
Yes.
know all the nuances.
Yes. And you don't always get as reputable a general contractor as this guy from
Right.
Henry Brothers
Yes.
appears to be. Because Dan would always remind me, remember, he's a contractor. But he's even noticed that he's really been, you know,
That's fabulous.
helpful.
Good. That is fabulous.
Okay, shall we move on then to
We shall.
any correspondence this
So
month?
just come, census thanked us and how much money we have in taxes.
We got a thank you from the census
Yep.
for all our assistance and helping them count.
That's nice.
the people.
What was
And we got some
Lansing's
text.
final percent? Do we know?
It hasn't been published yet.
Yes, it usually
Oh.
comes later, yeah.
Okay.
maybe, I think sent it to last time.
All right, then let's move on to approval of minutes of the previous meeting. All right, then, everybody.
Okay, this is Bonnie, I move we accept the minutes from the January 21st meeting. As written.
Second,
All in favor? Aye. Financial reports and approval expenditures.
Okay, I move that we accept the February 2021 General and prepaids in the amount of $327,764.89. And additional February 2021 bills in the amount of $13,738.81.
I second that.
Then we'll have a roll call.
Tim Kalinsky,
Yes.
Sharon Novak.
Yes.
Mozella Brown. Bonnie Cuthbert,
Yes.
Judith Cook.
Yes,
Jerry Miller.
Did Mozilla say yes?
Mozella,
I didn't hear.
We need to have her acknowledge you.
Mozella,
Yes, yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Then, let's talk about the directors and all the other department head reports. If there's any discussion there. What are we doing for snow removal this year? Is it
Water's
just,
edge.
what's that?
Water's
Water's
edge.
I don't
edge.
even see it come popping up. Oh, yeah.
Pardon?
I'm sorry. I said it was lagging on my end. It was lagging really bad on my
Oh,
end.
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you had that high-speed internet.
I do. Xfinity, I'm fast.
I'm just kidding. Are they doing a pretty good job of the snow removal?
Yeah, for the most part, there was a little hiccup on Monday because we were closed.
Yeah.
Was it Monday? That was the
Yes,
holiday.
that was Monday.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't call them and tell them not to plow because I have construction workers here.
Yeah.
But they didn't plow Monday.
Oh.
So Tuesday, when it snowed again, there was like 15 inches of snow in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
they couldn't get in,
weird.
so my husband came to unlock the door because he's so nice to let me sleep. He wound up snow plowing the parking lot for 2 hours.
Oh,
So the guys had a place to get off the street because there was nowhere for them to park.
Did you have access to a plow?
No, he snow blowed with us.
Oh, snow blower.
oh my
What a
goodness.
What a good guy.
He was not happy.
He's quite a gentleman too when I'm doing the Meals on Wheels, because he always lets me go first because I got more deliveries. What a nice man. Bill is.
So, other than that, they've been wonderful. It's just a little, oops.
It sounds like it's, I don't know, I might have to go take a look after the end of this thing.
Yeah, we
Okay,
should,
I'm
we should
excited.
pop downstairs.
Yeah.
just
Oh, can
for
we?
the-
Good. I'd like to.
We can't go down there the first 2 weeks of March because they're gonna be doing the flooring.
Okay.
And there's a new thing now. They do this moisture
Sure.
barrier thing. I don't know.
That sounds good.
So it's a whole process and you can't walk on the floors. So yeah, we'll go down.
Any other comments or questions on the reports? All right, well, Friends of Library still
Yes.
keeping their distance.
I actually talked to Rosalie, their president today.
Finally?
She was here, so her and I chatted for a bit. And she said, when can we meet again? And I just said, I don't know, we'll see, maybe in the spring. She said, well, I thought I'd call other friends groups. I go, Rosalie, don't bother. Most of the other local libraries aren't even open. They're finally starting to open though, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Glenwood Linwood's opening March 1st, Calumet City's open. So.
Is South Holland open?
South Holland is open.
Grand Prairie's open.
So more of them are starting to open.
Good.
So I think maybe the 1st of March, we might take down our Lansing only thing.
Good.
But it is the people from out of town who.
Causing the problems.
I noticed that on the door, it says you can't come in here.
No, because
without
when
the-
everybody was closed.
And they're giving you flack about
Yeah,
it?
well,
or-
they were, they were being nasty and I'm like, I was tired of my staff being,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's not what they're here for.
So that's why we slept that.
Yeah.
That's why I said, can we just do Lansing? And it's helped.
Good.
So, but we'll probably, when they open, we'll probably go back to, yeah.
Okay, then information about Cards for Kids legislation.
Okay, so I have a handout for that too. This is a new thing that the state legislature passed. you know how there's some people, we don't have that much unincorporated land in our area. We just have a little bit. Yeah, it's really not that much. And about twice a year, we issue a non-resident card, and the people have to pay for it.
Sorry.
This legislation says if the kids qualify for free lunch at school and they're unincorporated, they get it for free. Not the whole family, just the kid in school.
Was the state gonna provide the missing money?
Of course they are.
This is Illinois, you don't tell.
On
But
unfunded.
anyway, another unfunded mandate.
Mandates are
Um,
always a wonderful thing.
Illinois
But I
state
truly don't think this is going to affect us very much. There might be a few kids, we keep trying as a library to get into the schools and give all those kids cards anyway, you know, that's our goal. So
Well, it's not very
I wanted
many.
you to be aware of this is what's going on, but I don't think it's gonna be a huge impact on us. But it's something that we have to do.
And
Okay?
if they'll get more kids.
And it is up to the child's parents to give us the proof from the school that they're on the free lunch. It's not up to us.
Right.
So I wanted you to be aware that that's.
Is that the main issue with that whole thing, or was there other stuff to discuss with that?
No, with this,
Okay,
somebody didn't like that, you know, a kid that was in an unincorporated couldn't get a library card, so it generated them doing this legislation.
Yeah.
So I just want you
real
to
important stuff.
be aware that that was going on.
Okay, so then we're gonna review chapter 7 then,
Through the rest
in
of
the
the book.
standards book.
I gotta file this by the 15th of March. So did you get a chance to look over it? At this point, I mean, I can go over every single chapter, but
I could do the checklist.
if you have a question,
You did the checklist.
okay, if you have a question, and if you got a chance to look at the checklist, I kind of would prefer you ask me, unless you want me to go over it list by list, I'd be happy to. So general consensus on the blower there. Did you guys get a chance to look at this?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? Judy. Mozella, did you have any questions?
No.
Pretty much, really, it's the first half that there's some things that we don't do. This second half, we virtually do everything.
That's what I was.
There's a couple like little things.
And like the percentage of the operating budget and stuff, I assume we're in
Yes.
somewhere. in
And
parameters
it
for
used
that.
to always be 12% of the operating budget had to be materials. And we would be in the ballpark, we weren't always 12, but now they say 8 to 12%. They finally put that low number in, because depending on your budget, and they don't count programming in that. That's materials, you know, and
Right.
programming is a huge amount of our budget.
Sure.
Yeah.
And a huge amount of what we do as a library. It always bugs me that that's not in there.
Yeah.
So by making it 8 to 12%, we're always in that, always. And I always say that that's what we use our per capita money for. You have to say what you're using your per capita money for, and I always say it's for materials.
Materials.
Ah,
That's where it goes,
Okay.
to purchase materials.
okay.
I did want to. There's a thing there. Oh, here, the chart in here. It's on page 53 about, oh, wrong chart. Hold on. Where is it? Give me a sec. Let me find. It's the one about the hours of service. Well, anyway, I can tell you what it
Here, by
says.
of service per
What
population,
page?
55.
Thank you.
What number, Debbie?
Page 55.
Oh, 55, okay.
Appendix G, it talks about hours of service. So we have 28,000 people, and it says minimum 64. Just so you know, we have 60, and we have for many, many, many years. We're below that. And the reason why is we're not open on Sundays. And our town doesn't ask for us to be open on Sundays.
How many libraries that are?
Oh, a lot of
There was a
them. Most of them
few,
are.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm from South Holland.
Well, see,
originally.
South Holland
Never told
isn't, because it's another
Because
church
of
in
the
town.
Church of town, yeah.
Uh-huh, and Lansing always has that.
I can see like
Most-
Chicago or other big cities.
But no, most of the other libraries are open on Sundays,
I didn't know
have
that.
Sunday hours,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
They're usually reduced.
But, and I always said, with all these years that I've been here, would think, someday we're gonna have to do that, and we still may someday. But nobody clamors for it, it
No.
doesn't seem to, it's not an issue here.
Yeah, I don't-
So,
It should be.
that's why we're 60, and I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, okay.
So that you knew, I'm aware of what that says, but that's why. But yeah, like, do we have adaptive technologies for people with disabilities? If we were to have someone who needed something, we would get it immediately.
Right.
We did that once before, and we had a person who was blind who came in to use computers, and we bought this, I think it was called JAWS or something. It was very expensive software, but we bought it. But I'm not buying stuff if somebody doesn't need it, because then it
Right.
just sits there, and
Just
it's
sits
a
there,
waste of
right.
money.
Sure.
And some of it's real specific technology, so
like,
unless you have. a
I didn't even
specific
see it
group-
here in some place. They want you to have a phone that's usable for hearing impaired. But those phones are very expensive, and nobody ever asks to use one. I've been here 21 years. So we don't have one of those. But if, you know, if we needed one,
Do
we
we have
would
anyone
do
here
it.
who could sign on their behalf?
No, we don't. But we have hired sign language folks before for programs.
Oh, nice.
Like maybe twice in the 20 years that I've been here.
Oh, wow.
And we have done that.
Right.
So if it's a need that needs to be addressed, we will certainly address it. And yeah, that's kind of my spiel about all of that.
You're speaking the language there.
Well, and if you'll notice, a lot of the checklists are repetitive.
Yes.
There'll
Yeah.
be things that cross over.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, into different spots. And it says about staff members in reading advisory that should be on a community organization. Well, we have been on boards, but we always go to stuff, so to me, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, for years, we were on the chamber board. So anyway, if anybody has any other questions about those, but we really do we're pretty good about all of these. This isn't where we need them, all right?
Good job, Betty.
Under your leadership, you've made many advances and formalized
done a lot.
many policies.
We've
and
done a lot in
A
the
lot.
last 15 years. We've
It's
done a
been a good
lot.
run.
Yes, thank
Well,
you.
because libraries have evolved
Oh, yeah.
evolved. And I really respect you, Debbie, because you have taken, you know, one thing and totally turned it into something that,
Well, and that's what's gonna happen in the next 20 years.
Yep.
It's gonna be somebody who's gonna have to carry us beyond what I can do. Yeah, yeah. I mean, somebody who,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah, we want someone to continue that. because
Exactly.
I don't think the library would be where it is today had you not followed that path, you know?
no. And that's why I think it's extremely important who you hire.
Oh, absolutely.
Take your time.
Hard shoes
I'll
to
give you
fill.
some stuff. It'll all be good. I'll be here until we do it. I'm not gonna be here until everything's done.
And Jennifer DeGraw is coordinating the parade entry again this year.
Yes. And they kept the superheroes from last year.
Nice.
She was excited about that.
Good.
And we were the first people to turn in our parade application.
I saw your picture in the paper.
Oh, it was cute. And I thought we were a day late because I am always up there on Monday. I want to be in the front.
Do they have the theme already
Yeah,
figured
the
out?
superheroes.
Superheroes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
last year.
And I didn't go till Tuesday because we were closed on Monday. And she said, "You're the first one." I go, "Nobody came yesterday." She said, "No."
Nice.
So, yeah, so that's all good. Oh, one other thing. Dan mentioned we're gonna replace that Chillowitz that didn't work out to be good carpet or good flooring at all. The pretty colored stuff in the very front,
That's awful.
right inside the door.
Yeah.
We're gonna pull the all-weather carpet in from the entryway
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Well,
you tried.
I know, we did. There,
What is it? more
We're gonna
like
do
a-
it-
like a brush, with your feet type thing, or? in the front there? or is
Yeah,
it-
well, that Chilowitz was supposed to be, you know, you could just mop it up and it was gonna
Yeah.
be
It would
wonderful.
be easier on the custodial
It
staff.
stains and it doesn't come up and it's
Right
just,
when you walk in, where the plane is, right?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, somewhere the plane is good.
Oh, okay. So
It's the turquoise,
okay.
where the surf desk is.
I just walk.
Yeah.
You
So,
know,
I want to get your okay to open at noon next Friday. Because they're gonna come in early, they're gonna come in at 6
Okay.
and rip that all out and work on it until noon and we'll open, but they'll have enough of it. They'll make sure they have a path down so people can get
Oh.
in and out of here, so you don't have to close. So is that all right if
That's
we open
fine.
at noon?
Sure.
Sure.
Staff's gonna work,
No problem.
we're just gonna open late,
Do we need to make a motion on that or?
just that it's okay. I just found that out today, he said, too bad it didn't come last week. They
Yeah,
could have done it on Monday, but it didn't show up till today.
So did everyone get a copy of this combined resolution?
Yes, and the people at home, I sent it to them via email.
Why don't we just like kind of review this for the next meeting and then we can vote on it?
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda.
We'll, you know.
I just think it's a really good thing, and I
No,
really
I do
hope,
too. I know, I'm.
like I said, everybody at the intergovernmental sounded positive, but you gotta take it back, so hopefully, it'd be wonderful if everybody did it.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah,
the
but you said-
breakfast is just a red herring.
She said she sent it where, Kelly?
What's that?
Where
I
did she
sent
say?
you the
she-
resolution via email this morning.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. Okay,
Okay, you got it, right?
for the resolution?
Yeah, I sent you the resolution, I sent you the cards for kids and the status report.
It's a very good thing. It's a good cause. I mean, we're trying to help our town, you know, it's.
Exactly, because like he said, if they just walk away, and Amy Todd has said, we can't,
It's really unfair
can't
to
pay this.
businesses.
It's
I mean, I'm
terrible.
not like some pro-business type person.
no, me either, but
But, I
it's just
mean-
no,
not
but
right.
fair is fair.
That's not fair.
It's like, okay, you're trying to fix something, so let's just kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's gotta be. a
All
better-
all these people gotta do is cross the border and. have
Well,
a
that's
bunch
why
of
it's so
Couple
hard.
blocks
Well,
taxes.
we're
For
all- all of
Lance?
us are- Everything's almost mom and
Yeah,
pop
yeah.
here. We don't have any.
Our
big box stores here in
politicians
town.
just that much of a tenure to this whole thing. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, pretty- Mike Madigan resigned.
Who did?
Like
Oh,
Like
okay.
Madigan, who'd have thunk?
So.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or concerns? Because we're gonna conclude the meeting then. Anyone?
Are we good?
All right.
Thank you,
All right,
Mozilla.
ladies, Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Oh, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
29.
Can I-
Thank you, Kelly.
Can we run down? real
Thank
quick?
you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.